Hi, I'm Rabbi Daniel Lappin, and I welcome you to the question and answer session today. And I also want to thank people who write in. Leah sent in this terrific question. It's amazing. Listen to this. While I was asleep, a friend of mine had the nerve to look at the texts on my phone. Now that friend is confronting me about some of what he read and stuff that he would not even know of had he not invaded my privacy by looking at the text messages on my phone. I'm quite upset and do not feel I owe him any explanation about what is frankly none of his business. Please advise me on this matter. Leah. Leah, the real question here is the friendship. What sort of friendship is this? And if this friendship is to continue, if both of you feel, and I mean, you refer to him as a he, and your name is Leah, so I am assuming that there is a romantic relationship involved, or perhaps one that might be moving towards that, you both need to have a pretty serious conversation now about the moral framework of your relationship. What exactly are the rules and structures of your planned life together? What are you thinking of? And privacy is obviously a part of it. Now, why this is so very difficult today is because we are living in a time when privacy has been virtually tossed out of the window. It's almost a given that people are going to reveal far more of their lives than we ever used to on Facebook or Twitter or this or that. There are all kinds of social media sites, and people have become accustomed to sharing a whole lot. And furthermore, people use texts and messaging on phones, let alone email, as if they are completely confidential. You would have thought that people would have read enough news to discover that nothing you do electronically is secret. Nothing. And so it's quite possible that your friend Leah has a damaged perspective on this. He may well think that there's nothing so terrible. You look at somebody else's phone. I mean, didn't you pick up your phone and show him pictures on it recently? So now he's not looking at pictures, he's looking at text messages, and he saw something that he found very disturbing, and he now wants you to give an explanation. No, you don't owe an explanation, and the issue is not what he saw. The issue is, how do you have a relationship where the boundaries of privacy apparently are very blurred? You know, there's a great verse in Numbers chapter 24 verse 5 when the evil prophet Balaam looked out over the encampment of the Israelites. We're talking about 2 million Israelites camped there in the desert. Balaam stands on a hill, looks down at the camp, and he says, "How goodly are thy tents, O Jacob." Like, why? Because they're made of nice canvas? Or they got pretty pictures on them? What does it mean? And ancient Jewish wisdom fills in the gaps by solving some of the Hebrew enigmas. And it is that Balaam noticed that every tent's door was oriented to never face another tent's door. In other words, when somebody moves aside the flap to go into their tent, if somebody else's door is open and it's facing in that direction, they'd be looking right into it. And indeed, you know, when you enter a doorway, this is one of the reasons that restrooms are usually built so there's a walk around way, because when you open a door and walk into a restroom, if somebody else is walking right behind you or walking by, they can look right in. So Balaam noticed that all the tent doors are facing different directions. No adjacent two tents have their entryways facing each other. He spotted that, and he saw a nation that valued privacy. And that's why he said, "How goodly are thy tents, O Jacob." That is one of the sources we have for understanding the importance of privacy. So Leah, it's not a case of whether you owe him an explanation for what he saw. Of course you don't. The issue is, does he understand what boundaries of privacy really are? And do you understand Do you understand clearly what it's going to be? In other words, are the two of you on the same page with your privacy expectations in marriage? And you should know on my website I have a lot of other information on understanding that even if two people are unified in marriage, there still remains an aspect of privacy that is very important. I'm Rabbi Daniel Lappin, and I wish you good times with your family, with your faith, with your finances, and your friendships. Hi, I'm Rabbi Daniel Lappin. Welcome, and thank you to all of you who send in questions to my website. I appreciate that, and I picked out this one for today. I brought up all my 3 children in the church. My daughter is getting married very soon and will not have a clergy or a pastor officiating at the wedding. I am hurt that God will not be at their wedding. How can I come to terms with this? It's as if she is turning her back on our Lord. Fran, I don't know that you ever come to terms with it, but let's try and take a closer look at what's happening and what you can do. First of all, I may be reading a little bit too much into this, but I have some observations to make. Look, we all raise our children with the things we consider to be most important for their physical survival and their spiritual survival. We get them car seats when they're small. We get them bike helmets when they ride bicycles when they're older. We are nervous when they get their driver's licenses. We speak to them of God. We teach them Bible. We want to make sure that we raise whole children, children who are physically complete and spiritually complete. That's what we do. And obviously, we feel pained when something like this happens. And we don't know if this is because of anything you did wrong or because it just happened. The truth is that God has a lot of say in this as well. And we can do everything right. You may have done everything right, and your child may still be rejecting the church. Maybe. Or alternatively, maybe there are things you could have done better. Aren't there for all of us? But reading into your letter, there are two things I'm struck by. One is no mention of your husband. You speak of, I raised my 3 children in the church, and you try to. What about your husband? Was there no husband involved? And if that's the case, you obviously had a very much more challenging road to walk, right? That would be a tough one. And so if your husband and yourself are unified in walking with the Lord, that makes it a lot easier to raise children who do the same. That was my one concern. My second concern is no mention of your future son-in-law. Where does he stand on this? Is your daughter following his lead in wanting nothing to do with the church, or is she perhaps leading him? What's going on there? I don't know. It's not clear from your letter, but that's also a relevant factor. So I think the important thing here is to recognize that maintaining relationships and open lines of communication with your daughter are very important. That doesn't mean that you accept her decision. It doesn't mean that you have to smile at that aspect of it. But I think you need to find out from your own pastor, what are the limits of your participation? I hope you can go to the wedding. I think you should if you possibly can. But you have to in some way indicate that your heart is not fully in it. But you have to do that in a way that makes sure that the relationship stays open. Firstly, for the benefit of any future children, that they should have a grandmother who is connected and who may be able to shine a bright light on faith for them. And also because you never know what goes on down the road. Once the tensions of marriage are over, particularly if they have children, people sometimes then realize the need for a stronger connection with God. And maybe there are aspects of the church your daughter has turned her back on, but perhaps secretly in her heart she still keeps a connection with God. All of those are wonderful possibilities that you have to keep alive. I hope everything goes very well, and I hope to hear from you, Fran. Let me know what happens. I'm Rabbi Daniel Lappin. Thanks for being with us today. And I wish you nothing but good times with your family, with your friends, with your faith and your finances. Hi, I'm Rabbi Daniel Lappin, and hey, thank you for sending in your questions. I really appreciate them. Here is a wonderful question I selected for today. I am your distant student here in South Africa. I am struggling to reconcile my passion to be a committed Bible teacher and create a real estate business at the same time. The general view of most Christians is that to be a successful Bible teacher, one must be divorced from running a business. Over the years, I've been finding it hard to abandon either of these two passions. If it is biblically correct to integrate Bible teaching and creating a real estate investment business, how can I do it successfully and in a way that pleases God? I've been thinking of setting up a leadership and business training business in South Africa that upholds and teaches biblical principles as you have explained in your two books, Thou Shalt Prosper, the 10 Commandments for Making Money, and Business Secrets from the Bible. How can it be biblically correct that students pay for learning about leadership and business from the Bible? Thank you in advance for shedding some light on this matter. May God bless you and the work you are doing. You are changing our lives for good here in South Africa. Emmanuel. Well, Emmanuel, thank you so much for writing. As you obviously know, I was born in South Africa, and I think we all retain a primeval emotional connection with our place of birth. And so I have very fond recollections of the natural beauty in South Africa, the incredible wildlife, and the people of the country. That said, I see you asking two questions. One of them is, can I reconcile, can I at the same time be doing ministry where my passion lies and also building up a real estate business where my passion lies? And then you have a separate question of being paid for essentially for ministry. Let's look at the first one first. Yes, a lot of very good people believe that making money is somehow evil. And if you've studied my two books, you know already that pleasing other people and being paid in the process is part of God's plan for human economic interaction. Nobody for a moment should think that God's attention was distracted and all of a sudden he looked back and he said, "Oh, I can't believe this. These wicked human beings have come up with money." No, money is part of God's plan for human interaction. And making money is not an expression of greed at all. It is an expression of a deep desire to serve God's other children. And so there's nothing wrong with having a passion for wanting to build up a real estate business or even a real estate empire. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to build up a ministry teaching people the Bible. Doing them together, the problem is not theological, the problem is not religious, the problem is that there are only 24 hours a day, even for somebody as enthusiastic, Emmanuel, as you obviously are there in South Africa. Look, competition in business is a very good thing. The fact that shoe manufacturers are competing with each other means that each one tries to be most efficient, each one tries to turn out the best product for the best price, and the result of that competition is that I can afford a nice pair of shoes. But if there wasn't competition, that wouldn't happen. Monopolies are always problematic. So you have to know when you're building up your real estate business, you are competing with other people who are working full time at it. And they will be thinking many, many hours a day more than you because some of your hours are going to go on ministry. Don't try that avenue, Emmanuel. It can't work. Each and every one of us is capable of focusing on only one thing at a time. You must decide you're either going to build a business or you're going to build a ministry, but you can't do both at the same time. That's the answer to your first question. The answer to your second question is yes, it is perfectly acceptable to charge people for anything you deliver that has real value. If what you're giving out is what people can get for free elsewhere, then your ministry will not prosper anyhow. But for delivering real value, helping people get something they couldn't get anywhere else, of course it's acceptable to charge for that. And the marketplace will decide what you can charge. You don't decide that, your customers will. I'm Rabbi Daniel Lappin. Thanks for being on the part of the show, and I wish you good times in your finances, your faith, your friendships, and your families.